end time of the transit and the midpoint time. So the resolution for time is based on what your exposure length is, and longer exposure length makes that less precise. Okay. If you got shorter exposure, if you're doing 30-second exposures, then you can have high time resolution in that regard. And the other thing about cadence is that in bit rate, I think what you're talking about there also is that when you take an exposure, there's a certain amount of time that it takes to read the data out and store it. So that's the cadence. Okay, so let's say you're doing 1-minute exposures and you spend 10 seconds reading out the data, as opposed to doing 3-minute exposures and you take 5 seconds or 2 seconds to read the data out. That's basically an efficiency type of calculation where you say, okay, my effective imaging was 90% or 95% of the time I was imaging, I got data. If you're doing really long data runs and you've got long readout times because your bit rate is slow, then you might lose some time resolution, but you also extend the time of the observing session to get the amount of data that you want, basically, is what it comes down to. So, and that, I think, is that what you're referring to in terms of the bit rate and how efficient the data gathering is?
Yeah.
That's a very thorough answer.
I mean, I thought about it. I said, how does bit rate affect what you're taking? But it's because of the timing and the measurement that you're doing with the time measurement.
How about a more simple question, Jerry? What kind of camera are you using on that scope?
So I think when we did this measurement originally, we had either our QHY 174 camera, which is a monochrome camera with the filter. We also currently we use a QHY 163 color camera, which is a one-shot color, but we also use it for science by binning it by 2, so we combine all the colors into one measurement, and then go through a filter that way. So, and I've done a calibration on that, and when you combine the pixels by binning by 2, it's very accurate. It's still very linear. It's just like a monochrome camera in terms of the readout that you get from the data from the camera as it passes through a filter. I did a calibration on our V-band filter, which is a visual photometric filter, and compared it. So I took some star fields, M67, did a measurement of all the different stars in the image, different brightnesses, and then plotted it against the catalog value for brightness, and it matched up pretty nice. I mean, there was no error, no skew, no curvature to the curve. It was very, very linear. And so you can use a one-shot color as a science camera if you bend by 2 as a monochrome, treat it as a monochrome image through a filter, and that seems to work fine.
Yep, great. Terry, there was a question that was asked by someone in our audience, and they wanted to know, what was it like to be president of a club that's predominantly a male hobby?
Well, the Astronomical League, when I first went in, I was secretary, and I didn't know anybody, but everybody was very nice. They made me feel at home. And as you kind of come up through the ranks, I went from secretary to vice president to president, everybody. And over those years, you have met so many more people. And very honestly, I was very fortunate because all of the people that I worked with and all the people that I had met, everybody was very nice. I never had any trouble. Probably the funniest thing I have is because of the way my name is spelled. When people don't know me and they see my name, they assume I'm a man. And I'll never forget meeting Don Parker. Don Parker's mouth just went down. He's like, whoa, you're a girl. And that's probably the biggest thing that I run into, because I really have been very fortunate. And I think it's because astronomy is such a great community. No matter what part of the world you're in, whoever you meet, everybody seems to be pretty welcoming. So I've been lucky. I didn't have any trouble, and I still don't. I think a lot of women are coming into the hobby, and so we see, there really maybe isn't the problems we might have seen way back a few years ago. But now I think it's pretty even. I think they listen, and everybody kind of talks back and forth. They listen, they share information. So I'm very fortunate, and I think for most women coming into the hobby, I would hope that would be the same thing that they would find, that it's a very welcoming hobby.
Great. Excellent. Okay. Well, Gary, how's it looking out there?
Hi, yeah, Scott, can you hear me?
Yes.
You can, cool. It's all right, because it flashed up on my screen that the mic had disconnected, so I wasn't sure that it was actually still working.
A few minutes ago, we had a momentary loss of live streaming, but it was just momentary, and we came back on, so we're all good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we're still capturing here anyway, that's the main thing. And I've got nothing flashing red on the screen saying that clouds have come over, so that's...
Hey Gary, I want to interrupt you. I'm looking at the YouTube stream right now, Scott, and it says it's starting soon. 3:37 is the time index on it.
I'm watching YouTube. I'm watching Facebook Live right now. It's on live. If you press your feed on YouTube, it'll come back. Yeah, I see. It's live.
Cool. That's good.
We're all good.
So, Grant, how's things going out in Spain at the moment?
Hi, Gary. It's looking pretty good. I see 1101 is too low in Spain. It's down at 6 degrees. So I've gone to the next one, which I think was the Crescent. So I'll share that. That's coming in really nice. You see that?
We're all good.
Yeah, cool. That's good.
I just wanted to mention, following what Jerry was saying, if you don't mind, I had a talk on Sunday by the co-coordinator of the aerial Exoclock project, which is a European Space Agency project, which is launching in, I think it's 2028, to study in depth exoplanets, around 1,000 candidates. And they've got a project running at the moment called Exoclock, which is where amateurs can submit transit data. And the idea is to help them sort of refine the models of the particular candidates they're going after. So they're actually asking for amateurs to jump in with small, medium-sized equipment to help them with their mission in 2028. So if you're interested in transits, I think that's a really good project to get involved in. And they've got some excellent software for amateurs to use as well.
Right.
This is awesome. I love it.
Right, I was muted there, sorry. That sounds really good.
If people are interested, the talk, we put it on YouTube now, so I really recommend watching. I learned a huge amount myself, and it kind of got me quite fired up in the exoplanet stuff. So yeah, hopefully it will inspire some other people to get involved as well.
Cool. I like the idea of this imaging in Spain with clear skies. It really suits my appetite at the moment after such a drab year.
This is excellent software as well. I didn't mention the software before, but this software is called Starlight Live, which is some live stacking software. I believe it is free. I know it's free. That somebody develops a while back, and it works really, really well for just building up the image quite quickly. So you can see something, when you do an outreach work, you want to see something on the screen as soon as possible, but it just continues to get better and better the longer you leave it running.
Excellent. Yeah, it looks very clear on here. Unlike mine coming through TeamViewer, it's not so clear. Cool. So,
great.
Thanks, Grant. So, Simon, what's happening out your side on the sun? Is there anything out there?
If you're expecting an alien to fly past, then the answer is no. But the seeing has actually gotten worse because it's starting to pick up a little bit of wind here. Let me just share the screen real fast. So you can kind of see that it's wiggling around a lot more than usual, and it's kind of a little bit soft. Oh, it just went kind of clear all of a sudden. I'll stop talking. I should just stop talking, you know?
That's actually looking quite nice here.
Yeah, no, it was questionable literally a moment ago, but I did do a quick stack of everything. So I'm just going to stop the share and then switch over to my desktop. So you're going to see a lot of mess. So let's just minimize this for a second. And I just stacked the image together and inverted the image as well at the same time. So that's what we've got right now.
Excellent.
So that's just that was from just a moment ago. So I'm going to play you guys a quick video. So for people who follow me on Instagram and stuff like that, they would have seen a lot of this stuff, but just so you guys can get an idea of this, this is actually a time lapse. Are you guys seeing that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
See that
So
very clear.
That's
Very
actually
nice.
beautiful.
That's amazing.
So each
That is
frame
really cool.
is literally 30 seconds apart. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't realize how fast the sun actually moves. From our perspective so far away, when we look at it, only the large features are somewhat visible to appear like they're moving. But the closer you get to it, let's just say we can get on a spaceship and fly towards the sun and get closer to, say, like a prominence. You can actually see things moving in real time. The closer you get, the more you can actually see and the faster it appears to move. It's actually quite scary how much craziness is happening on the sun. So for those of you who want to just see that again real quick, I'll just play it again one more time. And you can just see, it just looks like rain coming down from the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no umbrella in the world that's going to save you from this stuff, I'll tell you that much.
Do you have an idea of how big the Earth is compared to that scale there, that image size?
Funny you should say that. Not on this particular image, but I do have one on something very, very similar, if I can find it real quick. Let me just see if I can dig it out real quick. Oh, real fast. That's another ISS transit that I got. So this was actually a good one because the size of the ISS looks massive in comparison to the sun.
Yeah.
But let me see if I can find that picture, because I do, every now and then I do size comparisons of different things. I just don't know where it is. No, that's just, hold on, I just gotta move this out of the way. There we go. Is it in here? You can see I've got tons and, oh, there it is. How big is it? So hopefully this gives you an idea. So this is a prom that happened nearly 3 weeks ago. So you can see that the actual size is 7 Earth widths in height. And then obviously if you were to compare it to Jupiter, it's almost as big as Jupiter, if not bigger. So by comparison, what you just saw is probably around about the halfway mark. It's not that big by comparison.
But in terms of the speed of the motion of that gas, I mean, it covers thousands of miles in a few seconds, it seems like.
So I don't have this animation to hand. I did do a calculation on one of them. By accident, I wasn't paying attention when I was shooting something on the sun. And when I started to process, these images were taken 15 seconds apart. There was no prom originally. And on the last frame, there was this thing that just stuck out. And it was around about 2 Earth widths in height. And I was like, wait a minute, this wasn't here a minute ago. So I had to go back to all the old data, and I only had 4 or 5 frames worth of data. And I'm not kidding you. This is literally the space of like 2 minutes. This thing had just popped up from nowhere. So depending on the feature, it moves real quick. So one of the fastest moving things that you will ever see on a sun is actually a solar flare. So if you see one of these suckers go off, you can almost see it in real time. That's how crazy it is. I don't have the calculations and the actual video in front of me, but I did work out its actual velocity based upon knowing the size of the Earth, having the comparison, and I had 5 frames so I could work out how fast this thing was moving. It was some alarming rate. It was like 22,000 miles per second or something crazy.
Another story I have, Simon, has to do with me doing an astronomy event at Woodland Hills, of all places. We had a Coronado H alpha telescope, a 90 double stack, was out in front. This is when I was working at Mead Instruments, and I was looking in the eyepieces. And as I looked down, I'm looking at this sunspot active area, and 2 white jets flew out on either side. It was just like somebody stomped on a tube of toothpaste, 2 of them, and going out on either side. And it was just like over in seconds. And it was just like, no one's going to believe this.
You know what? I've witnessed something very similar to that. And I was a member of an astronomy club, and I said to something very similar, that I saw something, and they go, "Oh, it's not possible. It doesn't move that fast." And that's actually what got me into the learning the science behind some of this stuff. Is what I actually saw was a solar flare. So you can see these in real time, and you can almost predict them. Can I show a website real quick?
Sure. Yeah, feel free.
So obviously I'm not going to try and advertise anybody specifically, but you can obviously see I was watching the stream. So the Solar Dynamics Observatory runs a website called SDO, strangely enough, and you can actually see what is actually happening on the sun there and then. So they have data on all different wavelengths, and it's almost near real time. But what I'm more interested in is actually this. This tells me what is coming. Just so you guys know, it's actually called stereo A and stereo B. A stands for ahead, and B stands for behind. Now, if I remember correctly, stereo B is the one that doesn't work right now, which is why you've got this black area. Long story short is there was actually a solar flare with a major CME that hit that particular satellite and knocked it out. So it's out of commission, and they have no clue where it is. It's out there still orbiting along with stereo A and the Earth, obviously, but they have no idea where it is to contact it, to get it to turn back on or anything. But all I'm interested in is this line here that says 0 to -90. Anything within that range is visible to us, but anything after -90 to 180 is what's coming. So you can tell if something big is about to come around the corner and give you a good show. So if you were to look at, say, some of the data out here, I'm going to use this particular one. We can actually see if there is anything coming along. So the PROM and the active region that we were just looking at, or that we are looking at, should I say, this area here is actually this part here.
Oh.
And then you can just about make out the PROMs showing up in this particular band. Now, this is not hydrogen alpha. This is a different bandwidth altogether. I don't remember which one this one was called specifically, but just for you guys at home so you can see that there is actually the prominence up there. So we have a point of reference.
Yeah.
That's that PROM that you see there is actually this part here that we're looking at. So you can see it's pretty much in near real time. And then Daystar themselves have a website which also has a live view of the sun in hydrogen alpha, so you can kind of get a good idea of actually what's going on. This particular one is actually done in Big Bear, but they have them darted all over the world. It's not just the US, so it's pretty damn fun.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Let me stop screen share. But yeah, I mean, I've got other pictures other than deep sky, other than solar, obviously. So if you guys want to go have a look at that, just let me know on the chat, and I'll show you a handful here and there.
Cool. Excellent. Excellent. Is it getting nearer time for Jerry to do any more questions?
It isn't time. It is absolutely time. And this particular question, this is the number 3 question, right, Jerry?
Yeah, that's the one. I
Let
guess
me-
so. Yep.
There, so I can also post that. We had quite a bit of internal chat here.
Now I'm going to have to do a clue on this probably, along with the question.
This is
Although
Is this question like,
you should be able to find it pretty easily without even me giving a clue. So maybe I won't give a clue.
okay, all right. So you can ask the question. I'm gonna post it. Okay.
Okay, so what is my local astronomy club name? I was the president of this club. I probably gave it away. What's the prize?
The prize is your choice of a 52-degree Explore Scientific waterproof eyepiece. Argon purged, warranted forever under our no-fault transferable warranty.
So the better
So-
the prize, the easier the question, it sounds like.
Yeah. Destroys that eye, and if you can get it back to me, and any part of it, I'll replace it. So there you go.
Cool.
Scott, you probably don't talk about this nearly enough, but a lot of your products, if not all of them, carry this lifetime warranty. And
It's a forever warranty. Every
Yeah.
time I my mouth, I'm talking about it almost.
but you know what? Well, yeah, I guess. But I mean, I got to give you a lot of props on this, because there is a great story that you've told us before, and this is not just a story for the sake of a story, but Scott actually replaced 2 telescopes, if I remember correctly, because of the Paradise Fire,
It was
where the guy
the
dug
Paradise.
out the 2 front elements, and you still replaced it.
Yeah, it was 2 eyepieces. I actually have them in a glass case here somewhere, but and I'll show them here at one point. But they are absolutely melted. Super hot fire in the Paradise Fire. He lost everything. He lost his house. I think everything he owned, and he had lots of telescopes and stuff like that. Plus, he had some of our eyepieces, 2 of our eyepieces. He was able to find them in the destruction after the fire and return them to us, and we replaced them. Yeah, so I've kept the letter. I've kept the eyepieces. It was very sad, but I think that we were at least a little bright spot in all of that. So
I like to think that you've made such a big impact in the astronomy community. I really do. And I'm not saying this just to blow smoke up your behind, but seriously, for as long as I've been doing this, it's funny because that's the scope I started with, is an Explorer Scientific scope. I had the 127, and I wish I never got rid of that damn thing.
I know where you can get another one. So
What? No, hold on. So this one, we star tested this one, and I remember when I bought it because Daniel Bouncy from the store, he wanted to get rid of stuff, sales guy. And this is really before I was working there, and he was pushing me to buy this thing. So I said, you know what, screw it, I'll buy it. It's used, it's okay, it looks beaten up, it doesn't matter. But we took it back, we star tested it, and everybody around me who was really into all of this stuff, who do all the star testing, was like, this is an Explorer Scientific scope. I was like, yeah, why? What's the problem? And they were like, oh, we've never seen one like this. It's like, you don't want to lose this thing. And I kept it for ages. And the time came where I got the opportunity to get a bigger scope, and I needed to put the money together, and I sold it. And I kid you not, I wish I didn't. We know who the customer is who bought the scope, and it was amusing that he did the same thing. He did a star test and goes, there is no way in hell am I going to let you have this scope back, because I asked him, can I have it back?
Well, we provide, we choose telescopes out of the production that are diffraction limited or better. They have to be. And I know that from my experience and working for another company, that not all of them were that. And so I kind of have a philosophy that I don't want to get product back because someone wasn't happy with the optics or they weren't happy with the electronics. It is far less expensive for us to get it right the first time. So the customer can be satisfied. Now, there are better telescopes than Explore Scientific telescopes. Takahashi's are out there. Astrophysics telescopes are out there. There is better. You will have to pay a lot more for them. But I think that if somebody wanted to have a nice telescope, something they'd be proud to show, something that they could do research with for the rest of their lives, then you can do that with an Explore Scientific telescope. So I'm not going to make a big pitch for the company here. This is a star party.
I know.
And there's lots of other great equipment that's out there, so that's also available at extremely reasonable prices. And if amateur astronomers were ever living in a golden age of product availability, product selection, sophistication, all of this stuff, it's right now. We're here showing you, we're sharing live from astronomers from around the world, the telescopes and what they can do, and it doesn't cost a fortune to get into this. So you can have a telescope that for about the same price as a telescope cost in the 1980s. You can have one now that's robotic. You can have a camera system that is very affordable. We have the internet now. We can communicate this stuff all over the globe, and you can let other people control your telescope. So it's very easy. You should. I will plug Jerry Hubble's book on remote observatories. It's a great book on how to do this kind of stuff. But all the people here, Karen, Gary, Grant, all of us here can help you get into understanding how to do a remote setup, whether you've got an observatory or you're just placing in your backyard and you're letting your friend and in another country or another state operate your telescope. It's a lot of fun. And I had someone in the chat here asking me what's the best way to get kids involved in astronomy. And I think the best way to get them involved in astronomy is to let them get hands-on. But how do we do that during COVID? Okay, well, we have all the tools to do that during COVID. You can set up a telescope and connect with a classroom and a teacher somewhere and let the kids take images through your scope, and gosh, how amazing is that? So
solar is one of the quickest ways to get them involved. It's one of the easiest ways because the kids are not up late then. When we move into winter, it's a lot easier because the skies are darker earlier and 6, 7, 8 o'clock. But generally, with a lot of the schools and things, we end up with solar to get them started. And the questions, and just putting solar sunglasses on a group of children, and they're like meerkats looking up at the sun, and you get that wow. That's before they've even looked for a telescope. That's what it's all about. It's good fun.
Dare I say, in terms of the outreach stuff, I think Starlink's doing us a lot of favours there. I've had a lot of interest, with particularly young people that have been going outside specifically to look for the Starlink clusters going over. So it has its positives there as well.
Sure, it's like everyone did trying to find Sputnik back in the 1950s, right? So we have some comments here. Let's see. Paul Raudsap says, geez, almost have the same story. He's responding to you, Simon. Had the 127C carbon fiber, sold it because I wanted a bigger one back when I thought bigger was better. I tried to track the person down a couple of years later to see if I could buy it back. Never found him.
You know, it goes to show. Actually, the funny thing is if it's not your first scope, oh no, it's almost as bad as the death scope. If it's not your first scope and you're going into an intermediate scope,
Yeah.
the 127 and anything in that kind of size range is actually the best size, because it's not too big and it's not too small. It's got the aperture, and apart from it looks really cool, they are the best sizes. And I've gone through the entire range from the smallest, like a 61 millimeter scope, all the way through to a 150. But it's the 127-ish type sizes, the ones that I keep coming back to all the time.
Well, the one thing that I've found in terms of astrophotography, and critical sampling is important. And the sky, for 90% of the people that want to shoot astrophotography in their backyards, the sky's only going to give them 2 to 3 arc seconds of seeing. And in that regard, 1,000 millimeter focal length is the sweet spot for me in that range. So there's no sense in doing anything different. If you want to get the best, widest field with the highest resolution you can get from your backyard, 1,000 millimeters focal length is about what you want.
Right.
Yeah, we also have here at Telescope House the saying that all of us have gone for the biggest thing that we could possibly afford, and none of us own them anymore. It's simply because your ambition, when you're just starting out, you always think you want bigger and you want better, but bigger isn't always better at all. And Simon, I quite agree. 127 for me, it's just the most versatile scope that I've ever owned, full stop. So,
well,
yeah,
I mean, don't forget, we've actually got a beginner here, Chocks. Give us a quick rundown of your equipment, because again, you are a beginner at the end of the day. So, and go through, why did you choose that particular size?
Yeah, no worries. I looked at various different options, Newtonians, because again, like I said, I didn't know anything about telescopes or anything. So a lot of it was internet research, looking at what the various different options of scopes were. A lot of it was talking to people like Rother Valley Optics. I think I found Telescope House, Harrison's Telescopes. I spoke to various different people. Everybody kept referring me back to getting a refractor because I looked at the SCTs. One person did recommend an SCT to me, but then when I sort of checked with other people, they said, well, you want to make sure the f-stop's quite small on a scope if you're going to use it for astrophotography. So I did a bit of research on the 102 Skywatcher, and it got okay reviews. A lot of people complained about the chromatic aberration and the vignetting, but to be honest, I didn't know what those things were. So I thought if it takes a half decent picture, it's fine. And it'll give me a view of the sky. It wasn't overly expensive, so I went for that. I then bought the IXS 100, and it was great. I think I outgrew it fairly quickly, so that went back, and I upgraded to the Exos 2 GT, the PMC8, and that's been brilliant. Adding the guide scope using Nina has just made it a real doddle, actually. It's made it a lot easier to see what you're doing, what's required. There was a lot of research involved, lots and lots of research, watching lots of YouTube videos. I originally started with APT, and then I moved on to Nina after that. So I've been using Nina for about 2 months now. And yeah, so the next thing I've got to upgrade is the scope. The guide scope, again, was a budget scope. It's an SV Bony 50mm with a ZWO ASI guide camera on the back. And I'm using a 600D as the main imaging camera, unmodified at the moment. So I'm not sure I need to modify it yet. camera can come later on. I think the scope's the next thing to upgrade.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. How's your skies looking there, Gary?
Intermittent cloud. I can see Mars over the side. Andromeda's disappeared for a couple of minutes.
Don't.
How's it going in Spain?
So I jumped onto the little galaxy that somebody suggested. I'm trying to remember the name of it now. It was where's it gone? NGC 1275, but it was so tiny in the field of view we've got over there that I've given up on that, and I'm just starting on M15 now. So I should, in probably another 3 or 4 minutes, I should have something on M15 to share.
Excellent. Excellent.
Cool.
All right.
Hey, Scott, going back to outreach and getting people into doing astronomy, if you guys really want to get into it, you can always look into your local astronomy clubs to see if they have anything going on. Obviously, with today's current situation, most of them tend to do all these online star parties and things like that. But even when we weren't doing them, even during the daytime, and this is fun because I used to do this quite often, and I might try it tonight, is finding planets during the daytime. And people always say you can't see them during the daytime. The answer is yes, you can. And I've actually seen Jupiter at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with the Dobsonian. So right now, Jupiter's very close to the moon, so it's going to be dead easy to find this thing. So I don't know if it's going to get high enough, but if we run long enough and it does start to peak up, I will point the scope over that direction so you guys can try and see it, because it's now coming up to, what, 5 o'clock in the evening for us. So just to prove that you can see planets during the daytime.
Okay. All right. We'll see if we're on for that time. I did want to come back to Terry for a moment. Terry, you were explaining about your guide scope assembly, and we did not have the spotlight on you. Can you show that again? Your guide scope, yes. And you're muted.
There we go.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, it is just a 30 millimeter. I've got the ASI 120 on it. And it just is mounted onto a quick release bracket. And that bracket connects onto the L bracket to my camera. And that's how I use auto guiding to auto guide the SkyGuider Pro. And then I've got the ASI Air Pro also. So
can you hold the spotting scope up higher? There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So the bottom of it actually just has, you would normally just slide in whatever bracket or whatever you want to hold there. But what I did, instead of sliding the bracket in, I put it on the other side and then slide the bracket part on the L bracket on my camera.
Got it.
Yeah.
And finding a guide star is really, I think, relatively simple, right?
Yeah, the ASI Air Pro does a magnificent. I really enjoy the ASI Air Pro. I do plate solving. I had the Canon L100 to 400 on there, but it's not really made for photography. But I wanted to see if it would hold the weight and guide. And before I was doing plate solving, I could shoot about 2-minute exposures. I can easily shoot 5-minute with that now. And I was looking for something to travel with. Something I could put on a plane and just do something besides a camera and a tripod. Oh, yeah. So I wanted something I could use easily, and I upgraded the base to a William Optics. It's got a base on the SkyGuider Pro to make it a little bit easier to maneuver around. It sets a little bit easier. So I've upgraded a little bit and kind of taught myself how to auto guide with being home so much.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, great. So what else do we have? Who else has something for us?
Can I add something else in?
Sure, of course.
Okay, I was watching Simon's work on the sun, and you know I'm an Aurora chaser. And so every time I watch the sun quite a bit, I've got a Solar Max 90 double stack, and I watch the sun quite a bit. But then I'm always watching because I really want to watch the Aurora too. So can I show a short Aurora video that I
Please.
shot in Alaska?
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I can get where I need to. Whoop. And share.
Yeah, you go to share, and then I think you just pick.
There we go. I'll pick out. This video was one of the I think I shot this in 2017.
Wow.
And you can see the Big Dipper, and this is coronal Aurora. This is what we were talking about yesterday. When you see it, you'll never forget it. If I can get it to go. I think that's it. Yeah. Now, I laid on the ground in the snow and just watched this, and I'm only going to play the first couple of minutes. It goes on like for 20 minutes. But this night, I had the Aurora went coronal 17 times during the night up there. But this is what you dream of. When you want to see the Aurora, this is what you really want to watch. And I will say this is from a 7A7S, and it is not, I have not processed it in any way.
Terry, is this in real time?
This is real time. This is a Sony A7S real time. And what you're going to see, I haven't processed it straight out of the camera. And when it goes coronal, it moves so fast. You about have to have your camera in the right place. But it's an incredible sight. It's something you'll never forget. And it's easy to do with a camera and tripod. You know, if you're just starting out, or that's what you've got. But Alaska has some of the most beautiful Aurora when it is active that I've ever seen.
Is this passing over your head almost?
Yes, it is. The Big
So we're
Dipper.
looking right up at it.
Yes, you are. In Alaska, I'm in Fairbanks. At this time, the Big Dipper was over my head. Ursa Major is up there over my head. And so you can see it's like a vortex. And it's very energetic. Like I said, 17 times in one night for the coronal part was just amazing. I've never seen that before or since. And then see how it dissipates? It just dissipates and then it fires right back up.
Wow.
Yeah, I just laid on the ground and did that. Wow. It was amazing. But when I was watching Simon's work with the sun, it just brought all of this back to me. And it just gets so active and it moves so fast. And you can see so much structure in it. But
Yeah.
I'm shooting at 25,000 ISO with this.
Wow. You got to get one of these cameras.
Oh yeah, I want to upgrade to the 3. The A7S3 is what I'm looking at now. And you can see I'm experimenting now with the exposure or with the ISO. I wanted to see if I could make it any better.
It's one of the best comet cameras, the A7 III.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I can stop this at any time, but just Simon's work made me, he's watching the sun and we're talking solar cycle 25. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, let's get going. I want to see some good Aurora again.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'll have to get there first.
When was this taken?
March. This was March of 2017.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when we actually had some sunspots. We had a huge CME hit.
That's right. I was going to say, because that's why I always say to people, you should always pay attention to SDO because it tells you what's going on. And again, you can almost predict when these things happen.
Yeah, that's great advice. I really appreciate your input. It just brought a lot of stuff back with my Aurora shots. So I can stop this anytime when you guys are ready to move on.
I'm not. I haven't seen anything like this before, and I've always wanted to see stuff like this.
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't know. It's different every time you see it. I've heard people say, I've seen it once, that's enough. And the reality is you see so many different things, so many different structures. You never know what you've got, when you're, I'm sorry. I just started it over.
That's all right.
Okay. I was going to, let's see if this will come up. See the face? I shot this one, and this is a house on top of a hill. It is a huge structure. See his eyes, his nose, and his mouth is open. He looks like he's blowing the north wind. And it's amazing. I had no idea that was there until I stopped taking the image and looked. But anyway, yeah, solar and aurora definitely tie together and make some interesting subjects.
We see the next shot.
Let's see. Yeah, this one was just up. This is Fairbanks down here. This night, CBS Sunday Morning News was with us. I didn't get interviewed, but you're going to see me at the very beginning with a very multicolored hat. And we were doing shots then. And very honestly, I moved to the other end to get away from the lights. And then this one, I went to the Arctic Circle. I'd never been there, and I wanted somebody. I had to go with a tour. Wow. We had blizzard conditions, and we got right above the Yukon River. And for about 40 minutes, the aurora just ripped open. It was beautiful. And there's a few ice road truckers going by. You see some lights. We're on a hill, and the aurora came out, and it was incredible. So that's, like I said, that's kind of, yeah, and that's just a shot of the coronal, because when it's right at sunset, you're going to get purples and you're going to get the pinks. And the blue sky, I mean, the sun had just set. There's times I could sit there and the sun would just be below and it would be dark enough and I would see bright streams of aurora come up. So it was pretty incredible.
Intense.
And actually, I'm in Ohio. This is my backyard in Ohio in 2012, I believe. We had a huge CME, and it's about 3 a.m. I was getting up to go to work, and I thought, oh, wow, I wonder if that CME hit. And at that time, I walked out, and what I could see was this icy green, very dim icy green aurora. But this is a 30-second shot, and you could see all the reds come out. But it's one of the rare times in Ohio we actually had aurora.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What is your favorite, Terry?
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. What is your favorite image? Your favorite?
My favorite image, I call this mile 48 because that night, I have so many memories from that night. 15 hours on the road, and you talk about desolate. There's nothing out there, and we got hit with a blizzard. We were actually have 2 or 3 cars together, trying to stay together because the blizzard was so bad. And you know, the guy that was guiding us had driven it many times. He was very secure, but it was just an unbelievable drive. And then to have all the skies open up for 40 minutes, we stayed there until the blizzard caught back up with us. And I rolled into Fairbanks at 5 a.m. and the blizzard, well, it's funny. I stayed up on a summit up there. I stayed on a Clary summit, and the snow had started again right before I got back to where I was staying, and I couldn't even hardly see the road. But just Alaska's amazing. There is so much there to see and do. And when you have aurora, you're never bored as long as it's clear.
Right. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're stunning images. They really are.
Thank you. I'm gonna unshare here.
There you go.
I think this is a good example of how getting into astronomy and seeing science in action, it makes the world a difference. I mean, when you start getting into heliophysics like this and seeing, not predicting, but seeing a CME and then knowing that somewhere in the world you will get aurora, and that's the part that people just don't realize. I think is they go over to these places and go, I want to see the northern lights, and the first thing I want to say to them is like, well, was there a CME, and you know, did something happen on the sun, because you're not going to get the northern lights if nothing happened on the sun. So this is where science really does fall into place. It's just awesome. I mean, I so want to go and see this stuff. I really, really do.
You'll never forget it.
No, I know I won't.
The trouble with solar minimum is it's quietened everything down so much, and it just feels so long since there was any activity in really aurora and flares and CMEs and so on. I mean, we have had aurora, but it's been quite weak, and that it's just been created by the increase in the coronal holes through the solar minimum.
Yeah.
So over in the UK, we've had plenty of alerts, and you've had coronal holes really every 7 to 10 days. There's been a coronal hole, and they've been huge. They've been the full length of the sun, some of them. So they're consistently streaming lots of data, lots of energy out,
Yeah.
but it's got no faults.
Yeah, we had some good sunspots, like Simon was saying, just, you know, at least something to show solar cycle 25's coming to life.
Yeah.
And that's encouraging, at least.
There's been a few there. I mean, my all of my work stopped at the moment. It's all of the stuff that I've been working on I can't do until we get the larger sunspots and the big active areas. Then I can't really do anything at all. So we're just waiting at the moment. Yeah. Every now and then you get a smaller sunspot group, so we'll just put some solar equipment on there and just check that what I'm working on and what I'm looking at is still working the same, or the new ideas are potentially going to work. But it seems like forever waiting for this at the moment to pick up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. How's it going out there, Grant?
Yeah, we got a nice image of M15 coming in. I'll share the screen, and a good example of issues with satellites as well. So there we go. Unfortunately, this software doesn't have the ability in the stacking algorithm it uses to sort of exclude those. So you've got a good example.
Get them, I guess, huh?
Yeah. Obviously, if we were stacking normally, we could easily get rid of that because that's only probably going to be in one of the frames in this 30-second exposures at the moment. Maybe a couple of them, maybe have it. So you'd easily be able to get rid of it in processing, but not in the live stacking at the moment. This software just can't do that.
Very globular cluster, beautiful.
It's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to control, you know, getting the core and the outer stars without just blowing out the core on this. In post-processing, you could use processes to handle that, but in the live stacking, you're a little bit more limited. But still, I think it's a nice image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of detail.
It's fun to look up object information too, you know, when it was discovered and stuff. This one was discovered by a guy named John Dominique Marolli in 1746. And Charles Messier cataloged it in 1764. So you just change those last two numbers around. M15, it says it's about 33,000 light years from Earth. Has a total luminosity of 360,000 times that of the sun, and is one of the most densely packed globular clusters known in the Milky Way galaxy. Its core has undergone a contraction known as core collapse and has a central density cusp with an enormous number of stars surrounding what might be a central black hole. That's pretty interesting. It's home to over 100,000 stars, and it's got a lot of variable stars, pulsars, including one double neutron star system called M15C. Really cool. This is magnitude 6.2. You can see it with the naked eye under good conditions with binoculars or a small telescope. Of course, with your system there, we've got a nice separation of stars. It's a beautiful image, and so that's excellent. It's amazing that we're watching this all the way live from Spain. So that's very cool.
Could you imagine having being on a planet that's a rogue planet and intermixed in the cluster and seeing all the stars so close? And Carlos Hernandez should paint an image of that on a planet surface inside of a globular cluster.
To have Carlos do a visualization from inside M15. So
yeah, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Globular clusters are amazing objects. I think visually they're some of my favorite objects to look at, and just seeing that many stars in that dense space is pretty mind-blowing. It's pretty unbelievable.
Do you have a wide enough field of view to see the double cluster?
Not really. It's I can go to it and give it a shot next, but I think the other thing, the double cluster is a weird object. I've never seen it photographed as nicely as I think it looks visually. I don't know why.
It is a visual one. I'm not going to lie. The double cluster is a visual cluster because when you kind of dart between the two, you pick out the blue stars or you're picking out the orangey red stars.
Yeah.
And a photo has never done it justice, but it's always a good fun one to look at, though.
It's a gorgeous object, stunning object, particularly if you've got a really nice wide-angle eyepiece with a super wide field of view. It's stunning.
Incredible.
Oh,
Up to take a spaceship ride close to one of these things and just see it
we're
fill up.
still imaging,
Field of
still
view.
imaging okay here. There's been an odd bit of cloud come through, but at the moment the images are coming in, and we're going to stack them and see what we can get for the next star party or something,
Okay. Okay.
which will be good. But, everything seems to be working okay, which is the main thing.
Yeah.
Let me just switch this over. That's it.
That's something that beginners get frustrated. You know, they have problems with their equipment and setup, but that still happens to even for me.
Yeah.
I have those problems every once in a while with your equipment, and it's just a setting problem or something. You know, no matter how long you're into this stuff, you're always going to have every once in a while issues with your equipment. That
You
have
can
to
see it
deal
here
with.
with the cloud come through now. Yeah, so we're just getting the cloud come through and balance the guiding out.
Touch wood,
Yeah.
things are running quite smoothly in Spain tonight, but I had another one of these sessions where all the software just crashed completely, and I was thinking, oh, what a disaster. But the feedback we got from some of the participants was it was great to see you struggling with the software, because they're the types of issues we have. It's great to see that everyone has these issues, and it's just part of the process.
Normal. It's normal. Yeah.
That's the thing. That's really what it's all about. But at the moment, I'm after really this sort of thing. This is what I really want to get back onto. I want to get back into the heart of these solar flares at the moment. So everything's sort of gearing up for this to see what we can do.
Well, Gary, you showed this image before when we had you on and just covered a bunch of your images, but this one is really spectacular. Can you describe this again?
Yeah, this was, it would have been the September when we had all of the 2 large active areas come around, about 4 years ago. And one of the sunspot groups there was sending out, I think it sent out 46 flares in one day, all different denominations. So throughout the whole rotation across in front of us, the sort of 13-day rotation, it was really, really active. So it meant, from my point of view, I could look at the what I was trying to do, and basically that was to image the exit point of the solar flare from the photosphere, from the surface of the sun. And that's quite hard because lots of the equipment doesn't show where the flare comes from. If we generally image a solar flare, it will it's very similar to a leak in a ceiling. If you have a leak from a bath, it never comes through directly underneath it. It comes through over in the corner of the room or somewhere else, and you've got to trace back where the leak is. And the sun's like that when it sends a flare out. So when we generally look at it, we're looking at the exit point through the chromosphere, and that's not really anywhere close. And also the plasma that ejects out is moved around quite a lot. So through the force and through it coming through the chromosphere, it gives you some really nice effects, and you get some big streams of plasma through the chromosphere, but it's not showing you where it really comes from. And what I wanted to do was see the exit point. So doing a lot of work with the quantum, I've got a 0.28 quantum, which is one of the real low band ones, and gradually worked out with spacing and changing some settings that we could peel the chromosphere away. So this point here is actually the exit point of a X9 solar flare.
Wow.
But normally you would overexpose the whole area. This is the key. The idea was to bring this really, really tight in with the imaging so that we could capture what was going on there. Otherwise, in normal terms, we wouldn't see any of this. You would just see white in this area and maybe a little bit of detail on the surrounding edges of the image.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it worked. And we've done this quite a few times since. But we're also picking up all sorts of things like the element bombs. You can see them hanging around in these areas here. Also picking up magnetic structures, connecting areas for magnetic structures. I can pick those up every day of the week now. So this sort of process has led on massively, even though it's been quiet. But really want to get more detail of what's going on here. In general, quite often with the flares, you ribs coming off them, which are long filaments. I've been picking up lots of activity in those, which are in quite symmetrical lines, so they're not random. They look like they're traveling either underneath the ribs or in the ribs themselves, and they look like tiny little white dots like this, but they're not random. When we look at this image, we can see them random all over the place. In these ribs, they're in dead straight lines. Yeah, like sort of 3 rows, as if they're traveling to and from the actual sunspot itself.
It's crazy.
That's an amazing image.
It is.
That is.
I think it's one of the only amateur images done in the world like it. I know it sort of stopped everything. The first image that I did, come back out that. First image I did.
Harry, what angstrom bandpass was that?
It's 0.28, so the pass was right up high on that. I can't remember what it was now. It was right up the top end of what the quantum will go, but it was actually changing the spacing as well. So it wasn't switching quantum right way up.
From the audience here. Brett Blake wants to know, does anyone at NASA or any university know flares can pulse like this? I watch a lot of lectures and nobody's mentioned this.
Yeah, it's really a lot of this is how close people are in to visually looking at it, and a lot of the SDO stuff is quite a long way away in its field of view when it looks at the sun. Sometimes it goes in close, but in general it's quite old now. So it was designed to look at, the whole sun rather than close up. I'm just trying to, it's escaped to my mind at the moment, but the Japanese satellite Hinode is probably one of the best ones for getting in close on the sun. Their anniversary video was stunning on showing what they can do and what they can't do. But this sort of image here, again, is 3-dimensional, is another thing that I want to work on. But where the sun's been quiet, there's nothing to turn 3-dimensional. This, again, was just a test image, really. It was the first shot out of a new piece of equipment I designed. So it was just a test shot, and it worked, But these sorts of things, really what you've got to think is they're dynamic objects. They're the same as the Aurora, solar flares, CMEs. Jupiter's really dynamic. It's changing all the time. Quite often with an image like this, it's a once in a lifetime image. You image it that once and you will never see anything like it again.
It's true.
Yeah. So you'll come close to it, but you won't actually get anything the same. And that works for a lot of these objects. But the deep sky is really nice. I love doing the deep sky, but it stays the same all the time. That's the thing. So in my lifetime, there's very few things that are going to change. We might get supernova, in an area, and that will be about it. Imaging the sun, you never know what you're going to see in the morning. And as much as I know what Simon's on about with looking at SDO, I refuse to look at it. I still like the surprise in the morning of looking through the eyepiece on the solar telescope.
I think that's a big part of astronomy for a lot of people. Once they get into it and they understand it more after they've done their deep sky images, that they want to see change in the universe. They don't want to see a static universe. They want to detect and see the changes that go on. And that for me is what's always driven my interest in minor planets and today in exoplanets. You see dynamic processes going on and you can measure it with your small instrument at home. It's like, that's pretty amazing,
It is. you know, when I'm doing the solar, and certainly when we get a really nice clear day and you get the big guns out, you know, you've got the 152s and, you know, the Airy Lab hat, we get that out. That's a 210 Cassegrain.
Oh, you've got
So
one of those scopes?
those Airy Lab hats, yeah.
Yeah. How are they? Because I had my eyes on one, but it's like shipping that corrector plate over there to get it coated is the part that makes me nervous.
Yeah. It's I've actually got it on loan from somebody. Somebody loaned it to me a while back, and where it's been quiet, I've used it a few times, but from our point of view, the seeing has to be really good.
Yes. Yeah.
It has to be stunningly clear. And I think that's really the thing now in the UK. We're finding, we've always discussed this, really the 127 is about the top of your daily limit here. The 152 only comes out on a good day, or if there's something there that you really want to get in close to. The 152 I've got is I've modified anyway because I put so much different equipment on it. It needed to be shortened slightly to aid all of this. So that needs quite a lot of extension tubes on it these days to run other standard equipment. But
that's why I like running a 165 in our observatory at f5.1. It's got the 0.7 correct. It's got a focal length of 850 millimeters. It can gather a lot of light, and it's got a good focal length.
The problem with the Daystar stuff is that you can run it at f16, but it's not that clear, if we're being dead honest. And you're after, on a lot of these prominences and these flares, you're really on about getting into the image. And that's the issue with it now. You know, the weather's changing. We're noticing the last 5 years, certainly over here, that you're getting less of the days where they're completely blue. They're whitish blue in the sky. So there's always some atmospherics going on. Now, before that 5 years, it used to be more jet stream upsets. So the jet stream would move around, and you could see it in your images. Your images would really bounce around with the jet stream there. So we found that the actual aperture of the telescope we're using is shrinking, but then we're changing it with the camera. Yeah, and we're using different pixel sizing on the camera now to come in close to the object. But I wouldn't say it's as nice. It does lack a little bit of detail there, but it's a way around the problem. It's the same as most astronomers, amateur or whatever, are very good problem solvers. Yeah, they work out how to get around their issue or their problem.
That's true. Yeah, amateur astronomers are ingenious a lot of times. You know,
yeah, they are. They solve all sorts of problems.
They'll turn around and prove you wrong. So that's right.
Yeah. But then I think that's where I came from with the solar. It was about proving people wrong. It was about saying, no, what you've actually written there is wrong. You can do this. It was a very negative thing when I came into it. There was a lot of negativity about what you can and can't do, and it had to be done like this. And, you know, if you mentioned anything like trying to do that sort of 3D stuff 6 years ago, people were like, well, you can't do that. I can actually remember when I posted that image, one of the editors to a magazine out in the US came on and said that image is not possible. And I said, well, that's because you actually don't know what you're talking about. And that's it. That's really what quite often you're up against. So I quite often say to people, you know, go off and do your own thing. If you've got those ideas and you think they've got the legs to run, then go for it. Have a good play around. And it will be frustrating. It'd be very frustrating, but all of a sudden you'll get those images come through, those ideas will work, and that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That really makes you smile. You know that as well, Jerry, when you're finding this stuff, you know, when you find these things, you spend ages hunting for them.
Oh, yeah.
When you jump on them, you know, it's all your Christmases come together on that day.
So Scott, I've got 3 videos that I can quickly show everybody. They're not that long.
Okay.
So let me steal the screen share for a moment.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you this one first because it's kind of the small one, but this just goes to show some of the craziness that's happening on the sun right now. And you can see there's a close-up of this thing, and it kind of looks like it's getting sucked into a little sinkhole over there.
Oh yeah.
It'll loop itself. You'll see it in the bigger picture, and then the smaller close-up. I think it's like a bigger picture. I mean, that's actually a part of the flare that went off. There it goes. Whee!
Crazy.
So there's that. I'm going to show this one first before I show the other one, because that one's a fun one. This is an example of the seeing conditions changing non-stop. And you can see when it goes out of focus almost, it goes really soft.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of the things that when you're using a large aperture scope is you are fighting atmospheric turbulence, which can be a big problem. And then lastly, I'll play this, is the Mercury transit.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
Neat. Look at that.
That's cool.
Nice little close-up of it.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll tell you right now, I mean, solar observation has come such a long way from where it used to be. I mean, it was more visual than anything else, if I remember correctly. There wasn't that many people that were doing imaging per se, and then it kind of exploded when the CMOS cameras hit the market, and it just opened it up, and anybody could get into it.
I think also those cameras allowed people to change what they were doing. You really did have the generic yellow surface of the sun and the red prominence ring, and every magazine ran that. You know, every article was that. And with the change of cameras, you know, that allowed everybody to do all sorts of things. You know, and also the equipment wasn't easy then. I mean, the Solarmax 90s, they had light coning like anything on them once you started putting Barlows in.
Oh, yeah.
And exactly the same with the early lunch. You know, they had all sorts of problems with that when you stick a Barlow in them.
Mm-hmm.
So to try and do some of the imaging that we were doing sort of 7 or 8 years ago was really hard, and took a lot of working around those problems. We didn't have tilt adapters, we didn't have flat correction that's in the software. Now it's really, really easy, to be honest. It's so easy to do the solar and come up with really nice images.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Well, we are coming up on, it's like 1:20 in London right now. And so that's those of us in the States can keep going on. We got a lot of energy left, but
Gary went on till 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, the other day, right? 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it was 7 o'clock here. It was actually 20. I logged off the other morning. Yeah.
I think it looked like you were about ready to fall off your chair by the end of that session.
It was a long session that was, but it was good. It was good fun. It was very interesting, and I think we all had good fun on that.
Let's see. I was expecting to have the answers for the winners from the last Star Party from Kent. And
oh yeah.
If you guys give me a moment, I'll go and check and see if Kent's still here. He was going to get them, but I wonder if he left the building without doing that. So.
He asked me some questions about it earlier today, so I think he was working on it.
While Scott is searching for Ken, I'm just going to quickly show a couple of images because I know some people probably noticed I got a folder full of stuff. So here's
Take care.
the Lagoon Nebula, hopefully, if it loads.
Yeah. Kent miraculously came running up. So after you're done sharing the screen here, I will I will give the answers and the winners for our last virtual star party, which was VSP4 last Tuesday. And our next star party will be next Tuesday. So we're doing these.
Oh, it looks like my computer's decided to go, nope, I've had enough. Oh, what was that big error? Filing system error or whatever. So here's the Lagoon Nebula and the Trifid Nebula. So we're looking at the core of the Milky Way. So that's a nice one to have a look at.
Oh, yeah. Look how it's nested in there. It's so nice.
Oh, yeah. And here's the funny thing. A lot of people don't seem to capture the little foot at the bottom down here. It kind of looks like a big toe almost.
Mm-hmm.
They don't in the UK because it's normally below the horizon.
Oh, is it that much of a struggle?
It's actually, it is right on the horizon that in the UK. It's very, very low down in the rubbish.
Let's see if I can open this one real fast and then we'll photos. I got a funny for you. There we go. So Eagle Nebula with the Pillars of Creation. That's always a nice one to look at. And then here's the fun part is if you don't own a telescope, there is nothing stopping you from doing other things like Milky Way shots. And I almost want to turn around and say, I actually have more fun doing Milky Way than I do have doing anything else, to be honest. So we're going to just quickly show a small version so it will load, hopefully. Yeah, there we go. So this was taken in a really dark place in the middle of nowhere.
Look at that.
Very good. Very cool.
All right, Scott.
Yeah,
it's all you now.
That was actually easier than doing Andromeda. Anybody can do the Milky Way if you go to the right location. It's got a lot more detail than Andromeda does.
But it's a great starting point, though, I think.
Yeah, I think the only thing you have to watch over here is probably dew on the camera lens. That is quite a common problem over here. Even through last month and June we had frost there.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is unheard of. I've never known frost here in the June, but we had 2 or 3 days. Killed lots of the plants off, killed lots of the insects off. You're out imaging with that, and that's a big issue with your camera lens. You know, so it's one of your cheapest ways of coming up with a dew heater for that is to get an extra large Starbucks cup, cut the bottom off, and then put your lens through the bottom of the Starbucks cup and turn it back on. And that will give you a dew shield on a wide-angled lens.
I have a comment here. Larry Bird says, I really like the Friday Star Party, Scott. Well, this is the first one we've done, so I'm glad you like it. Kind of hard to attend during the week when you're an old man like me who has to get to bed early for work. Lots of laughs. We'll see about doing more of these. I really enjoy, I mean, this, for me, this is an internet moment for me, okay? To have, astronomers around the world meeting up with us and sharing their work and their ideas and their passion. I think it's awesome. Let me read off some of the answers and the winners from the last Star Party, which was last Tuesday. This was for question 1, the prize was a 52-degree eyepiece and an OPT t-shirt. So OPT was on with us, Dustin Gibson was there. And this question was read off by David Levy. So, and it was an opinion question with no wrong.
Right. No wrong answer. Right.
Whoever was the fastest, okay, on the trigger won. And the winner was Jonathan Halsman with yes. Okay. So I forgot what David Levy's question was. But it was either a yes or no question, and both answers were right. So anyways, he's from Providence, Rhode Island. It's very cool. Question 2 was based on the information on their website. How many clubs are in the Astronomical League? And the answer was 240. So that was won by Jeff Wise. Jeff, congratulations. And that was a 52.
It's actually greater than 240. That's just the number they posted. That's why I went with that. It's greater than 240, but the 240 was the number.
Yep. Yeah, that was a 52-degree eyepiece. And then we had 5 door prizes for that particular star party. Question 3, how many different sizes and eyepieces does Explore Scientific currently offer on our website? And this was for an 82-degree eyepiece, 1.25 inch of your choice. Again, won by Jeff Wise. Man, that guy was like sharp on the web, jumping on the web. So it is, it's 8 series and 48 different eyepieces. So we have quite a bit. We're actually working on more. Question 4, what year was Explore Scientific founded? Nicholas Shapiro won with that, with the 82-degree 1.25 inch eyepiece of his choice. The answer was 2008. This is our 12th year, and I think it was yesterday I was being congratulated on LinkedIn with being my work anniversary of starting Explore Scientific. So that was kind of cool. Nicholas Shapiro, ShePro, thank you and congratulations. And then we had our top prize was an AR-102 refractor, and who was the first Astronomical League president. Okay, this was answered by Jonathan Halsman for the AR-102, and the first. Do you guys know who it is? And you can't answer, Terry. I know you know who it is. Anybody in our group know?
I know because I created the answer.
Can answer.
I didn't get the question then. I was actually typing.
Oh, this was a U.S.-based deal. So
He was a famous astronomer.
it was Harlow Shapley. So Harlow Shapley worked at Mount Wilson. Harlow Shapley was the one using the 60-inch reflector, the world's largest telescope at the time. He determined that that we were not in the center of the Milky Way galaxy by looking at populations of globular clusters. And so, a great cosmologist and great astronomer. And so that was a great answer. And so that's the questions there. We will go to our 4th question, Jerry.
Okay, this is a
right.
little different. This is I
And-
was trying to find some questions related to Europe.
Door prize, by the way, will be another AR-102 telescope. Okay, so this will be one that you're going to want to get.
Yeah, you're gonna have to look a little bit for this. I was trying to find a UK related question. So to honor Gary. So the question is, where in the UK is the Beckington Astronomical Society located? Where in the UK is the Beckington Astronomical Society located?
Yep. So again, you're going to want to email your question to Kent at explorescientific.com. Make sure you're a member of the Explore Alliance. You get a free membership on our website.
Cool.
Do you know where that is, Gary?
Yeah, I do, as it goes.
Okay, well, don't answer it.
I'm not going to. But what I was actually going to do was, from our side, was set a question, and I will donate an hour's tuition online to somebody.
Oh, there you go. Excellent.
There you go. There's a
Very nice.
big question for the show.
All right.
Yep. So what I would like the answer for, and remember to email it in, not to answer in the chat online, is how many miles in total has Cassini traveled?
How many miles in total has Cassini traveled?
That's the satellite. I'm assuming, not the person.
That's the satellite Cassini.
And yeah, that's a fixed number because we all know that Cassini crashed into Saturn.
Yeah.
So how many miles in total did the Cassini spacecraft travel? Send your answer in to Kent at explorescientific.com. And the price,
If you put it on the chat, then you give the answer to everybody else.
yeah, you're looking to sharpen up your imaging skills or you have gear issues, Gary's your man.
Hey, Scott,
Yep.
there was a question about the Astronomical League president.
Yes.
Harlow Shapley was an interim president from June to July in 1947. Then we had Edward Halbach from 1947-48, and then Helen Federer, 1948 to 49. So yeah, that's what it was.
Yep. There we
So
go.
Scott, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Why do they call it a door prize, considering you never win a door?
Well, it's a conceptual door, you know, to knowledge.
Virtual door. It's a virtual door.
You know, I never heard that phrase until I got here in the US, and I just remember doing one of the shows, and somebody says, "Are you going to go enter for the door prize?" And I was like, "Why the hell would I want to win a door for?"
So what do they call it in the UK?
We just call them prizes or giveaways.
You know,
Raffles, all sorts.
we probably got door prize from the UK anyways, from England. You know, we're all from Europe anyhow, so right?
It's really about the entry to the event, isn't it? That's where it comes from. So
Right, you have to show up at the door to win anything.
Yeah.
You have to be there.
Yeah.
Oh, is that where it came from? Yeah. Okay. I'm just not going to forget that because that person, I've forgotten who it was. I'm trying to remember who it was that was at the door when they said that.
Being that the United States is the melting pot that it is, it came from someplace else. So.
Oh yeah, but you should have seen the reaction from that person when I said, "Why would I want to win a door?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, I really sound like an idiot, don't I?" Well, it never computed in my head what they were talking about.
Yes.
what have you managed to image so far, Grant?
I've got a very, very nice pelican coming in if you want to have a look.
Oh yeah.
Really good.
I remember, Simon, you were talking earlier about North American Nebula and the pelicans. I don't know if you want to talk over this a bit. Hopefully you can see that.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
It's coming in very nice. It's a lovely object to image. As you can see, the field of view of this setup is can't quite get it all in, which is a shame because it's a wide field object. A really nice digital SLR target.
So I mean, so this is what I was talking about from a scientific data standpoint. Is you can see what's in front, what's behind. So if you see. There's a dark nebula to the left-hand side center of the screen. That area, exactly, that area there, that is actually in front, and it's actually in front of the thing that's on the bottom center. So you see how you got that lump with the little thing sticking out like a tendril? I used to call that the snail's eye, because that's what it reminded me of. But those dark clouds, or the dark nebula there that you see, is actually in front of us. And the big star that you see that's almost dead center, again, that's also in front of that nebula, but it's not lighting any of that stuff up. And if you were to remove all of that dark nebula, it's just one great big nebula that reaches all the way across the North American nebula.
Yeah.
I think the most obvious time you can see that is if you have the Wall of Cygnus. I wonder if I happen to have a picture of the Wall of Cygnus handy.
Somebody is asking, what is the focal length of that scope? I assume they're talking about this one.
That's a good question that I should know off by heart, but I don't. So embarrassingly, I'm going to go and Google my own product.
So for those of you who want to work it out quickly, it's your focal, not your focal length, your focal ratio multiplied by your aperture size in millimeters also gives you the focal length.
It's f6.25, so 650 millimeter focal length.
Nice.
This was an object that I was trying to find the images, but I can't. But I was imaging this with a red cat last year sometime, which is a 250 millimeter focal length. So it just gives you so much more of it. Particularly if you can put a larger chip like a digital SLR on, you'll get a really nice field of view. It's just a beautiful object, and it's quite high in the UK at the moment as well, so it's well worth a go at.
Yeah.
So it's how many millimeters focal length?
650.
650. Okay.
No, that's looking really good. That's looking nice.
Hey, that scope's making a beautiful image. Look at that.
How many minute exposures is this?
30 seconds only, but there's 54 of them so far. So, you know, it's a reasonable amount, but it's not a huge amount. Again, this is where the narrowband and the mono camera is such a sensitive chip on this camera. And that, for me, was the biggest leap I sort of made in astronomy, was that switch from digital SLR to a dedicated astronomy camera, particularly mono. When you can start playing with narrowband stuff, it really helps.
It helps even when you've got the clearest skies to run through all of the filters.
Yeah, I mean, we're spoiled a bit by having it somewhere very dark in Spain, so you have to bear that in mind as well. But it's not, you know, the kit that's out there is not ridiculous kit. It's just a nice.
It's not expensive stuff. It's
No.
not, you know, in astronomy terms, it's not really expensive.
But coupling the back illuminated high QE cameras with the narrowband filters really makes it a lot better and easier, because you don't have to do 10 or 20-minute exposures anymore.
Yeah.
With the older cameras, to get any kind of and to knock the noise down, of course, you know.
Have you experimented with narrowband yet, Chocks? Is he still awake? Is he
Yeah.
still
Oh, no,
okay.
no, I haven't yet. I've just been sticking with the DSLR. I mean, I'm still at the stage where I'm just happy that it turns up on the screen, and I can get a picture and it doesn't trail. So that I've seen a lot of people mention the narrowband stuff. I still don't really know what it is.
You know what?
And I've seen the filter wheels and things that people buy and things. I've seen them all on the forums, but yeah, I've not looked into that yet, because at the moment I'm happy with what I've got and what I'm getting, and then I will evolve eventually. But I think I need to get the post-processing bit as well. So yeah, sorry, go on, Gary.
You know, so you can get HO with a DSLR. It will just take you longer. So where you're more biased on the green pixels and you're only going to have one red pixel, it will still image it, but you'll just have to image it longer. Yeah, but the other thing to have a look at is one of the quad or tri-band filters. They're not all brilliant, but they do the job. Yeah, they do give you some different data there to play around with, and they're relatively cheap for what you're getting when you compare them to narrowband filters themselves.
Yeah, and I've been looking at filters as well, light pollution filters mainly. Again, it's about figuring out which one I need.
There's a secret with narrowband imaging that astronomers have discovered, I think, over the last couple of years, is that you don't have to buy an expensive scope to do narrowband imaging.
No, you don't.
No, yeah, that's totally true.
That's the same with solar. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You don't need a triplet to do solar.
And you don't even need an apochromatic scope either. You can actually use an achromat, no problem.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, $300 scope will do narrowband imaging just fine.
I don't know if you guys agree, but I find narrowband so much easier to process as well than broadband data.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll look at, because it was only when was it Wade who joined last time when he started talking about the OI and the HA.
Wade,
and I didn't really know what it was.
in 6
So I
hours.
went and Googled it. Yeah, 100-hour Wade.
Yeah, 106 hours. Yeah, that's amazing.
So I went and Googled what he was talking about, because his images are outstanding, you know. So I started to read up about what it was. Still in the investigation phase. So, because I've got a cheap scope anyway, which will be fine. It's not apochromatic, so.
You know,
it's a
I'm going to
normal
tell
one.
you. I'm going to tell you now. It's that. I know you get to look at other people's pictures, so the reaction is somewhat different from person to person. But it's when you take your first HA image, it's like your world just changed, and you just sit there and you're in awe because it's stuff that you've never seen before. In fact,
Yeah.
Scott, I'm partially tempted to ship Chox out a HA filter and a monochrome camera that I used to use, just to see and have him live when we do another one of these star parties and have his reaction live.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. I'll have to do a lot of research on how to use it, but yeah, we'll give it a go.
It works just like every other camera. So basically, long story short is I have the first generation ASI 1600 Pro, but it's not the Pro version. It's the previous one, but it's the Panasonic chip in that one. And then
Yeah,
I've got I got a couple of spare HA filters drifting around. So I'll get your information from Scott or whoever, and I'll try and get that out to you at some point so you can have a go at it.
Oh yeah, cheers. No, that'd be really handy. Give me something else to play with and evolve the hobby to the next stage. Yeah, cheers. Thanks, Simon.
No problems. In case you guys didn't realize, I do give away a lot of my stuff because once I'm done with it, I pass it on to somebody else.
Nice.
cool.
It's one way of keeping the house tidy.
And that's an excuse to buy more new stuff too.
You know what the funniest thing is I actually, you know what, I'm going to lie because I am going to be buying another camera on Monday because I have to for this, for a transit that's happening on September 11th. It's a ISS transit that's visible, but it's also a lunar transit at the same time. So we're actually going to see the ISS coming along, going through the shadow of the moon, across the face of the moon for all of 0.3 of a second, and then popping back out the other side. So I don't know what to expect from that one, but I've got 3 people coming along. And I'm going to be bringing a 12-inch Dobsonian to capture this. I'm going to bring my 12-inch Newtonian to do this as well, or the refractor. I don't know which one yet. So there's going to be a lot of equipment staring at this thing, and I think people are going to think we're nuts.
Simon, can I just butt in here as
Sure.
well? Just to give people watching an idea of how quick transits are, I'd just like to share a little transit picture that I took of the sun, the ISS going over the sun a couple of months ago from here. Very low down, not as good as your stuff at all, but it's worthwhile showing to people how quick
totally
these things can kind of move. Right. Okay, are you seeing it?
You got to share your screen first. There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
So that we can wait around for a long period of time, and that's how quick it is in real time. Yeah. It's very, very quick as an event. And this, I was fortunate enough to be able to see from my back garden here. As I said, a couple of months ago, sun was very, very low. This was taken with a Lunt 60mm, one of the original tip tilt systems. And this was taken with again an ASI 1600 mono. As you can see, it's a bit Newton's ringy in places. That's the tilt tip system running, but that's how quick it's over, folks. You're not talking about a very long event at all here.
Yeah, crazy. You got to be.
And it looks like you got at least 10 frames a second there.
Yeah, well, with the 1600s, it doesn't run high at full frame rate, which was
no, that's true. Yeah, that is true
at all. But I wanted to get the whole sun just to get an idea of scale as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. I'm going to share an image that was done by Jason Gonzalez. He calls himself the Vast Reaches. And he uses an AR-152, an Explore Scientific achromat with narrowband filters. Let me see if I can get this here. Yeah. This image right here was a recent image that he did, the Cave Nebula. This is done in narrowband. It's done with an achromat, an f6.5 achromat, 6-inch aperture. This telescope sells for under $1,000. But narrowband imaging really just does some amazing stuff.
I think it distracts your eyes as well from different things. You concentrate more on colours in an object in narrowband.
Right. It sounds like there's a big.
Oh, are you talking about me? Yes, my neighbours. It feels like it's always syncing with my own next door.
Cool.
So I'm just going to quickly show everybody a website on how to find transits, because it's become something popular, hopefully, and at least for me, the more people I can get interested in something like this, it's another thing to do in astronomy. It's not all about taking pictures of, you know, pretty nebulas and stuff like that. So let me just share the screen real fast. So
it can be a gateway. It can be a gateway into that. That's another way to get people interested in the equipment and then what they can do with it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And you can do this with any scope and a camera, so to speak. You know, you don't have to have all this crazy fancy stuff that even I use because I do a lot of high-speed imaging when it comes down to the ISS. But so the one of the biggest websites that I use is the ISS Transit Finder. And the way it works is you basically just type in your location. You can just do an auto detect, or you can pick it from the map. You choose the date and you choose the area of the search size. So we'll do the maximum size, which is 240, I think. And then I can click on calculate, and then it'll tell me where every single transit is going to be within my vicinity. And oddly enough, there is actually one right here. So you can see the actual transit is going to happen from where I physically live. So I'll be able to see it. A lot of the times I will drive out and go and chase these things because it's way more fun. But just to give you an idea, so this one's going to be on the 30th, which is a Sunday. So this will be a nice one to do because it's actually rated as a 4-star. So the higher the rating of the stars, the better it will appear. But more importantly, if you're interested in the physical size of the ISS, it's the ISS angular size. So here's the one that I was talking about on September 11th. I do have to drive a little bit to get to this particular one. So this one is, I think we're driving to an area called Simi Valley, which is one of the cities in California. But just to give you an idea, its total duration, transit duration, is 0.6 of a second. But that's the entire size of the moon. I won't get that. We will only see a tiny slither of where it actually exits from, which is the equivalent of 0.2 of a second. So I have to be capturing at 160 frames to even get anything to show up, because it's going to be that fast for the actual exposure for the moon. But more strange is this. So this is another website that I also use in conjunction, is Heavens Above. And this shows you where the ISS is going to be, if it's a visible pass, daytime pass, etc., etc. So again, the one we're looking at is September 11th at exactly the same time, roughly 6 o'clock. And this one's 82 degrees high, which means it's virtually over our heads. So you can see it starts from the northwest and goes right over to the southeast. And then it'll, well, I haven't set it for Simi Valley, but you'll see that it does intersect with the moon if I change the location. But this gives you an idea of where to be looking at and what to expect and when it's going to come along. So again, this website is Heavens Above, and it tells you absolutely everything. So I use this in conjunction with Transit Finder. That's how I knew about this particular transit Not only is it visible, it's also directly above my head, and it has an angular size of 60 degrees, 60 arc degrees or something like that, which is actually bigger than Venus. So it's going to be a big one. And again, just to give you a perspective of how big 60 degrees is, let me...
You mean 60 arc seconds?
Sorry, 60 arc seconds, not 60, that'd be massive. 60 arc seconds. This is an example of 60 arc seconds. Oh, here we go again. I think my laptop's going to blow up because of the heat.
It's also about the same size as Jupiter.
Yes, it is.
You have been wanting to get a new laptop anyways, right, Simon?
Oh, speaking of new laptop, so this I was doing the ISS a couple of days ago because I was trying to do a something scientifically done to measure the size of the ISS as it shot through. I was doing the countdown, and I'm standing outside in Valencia, which is just down the road from me, and I think we hit 109 degrees out there.
That's hot.
My laptop stopped right when the freaking ISS showed up. So I had no recording, no nothing. All I saw was it go across the screen and stop, and then my laptop just went poof. I was like, well, that was useful.
Oh, no.
So yeah, this is what 60 looks like. So this is what I'm expecting how big it's going to be as it zips across the moon. This is obviously the sun.
That is spectacular. Looks like a zipper.
Yeah, it literally does. And this is like shot in 170 frames per second. So it's fast.
Wow. Go in tight on the ISS. Let's see how sharp it is.
It does fall apart pretty quick.
No, look at that. You can see the split between, it's amazing.
I mean, just to give you guys an idea of what you can actually capture when it comes down to the ISS. Again, I have a couple of shots on my Instagram page. So let's go find the ISS. There's one right there. And that's taken with a 12-inch Dobsonian, one of the most inexpensive telescopes you can possibly buy.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful work. Well, gentlemen and lady, it is now 8 p.m. Central Time here, which means that it's what time is it in the UK?
It's coming up for 2 o'clock in the morning, Scott.
Okay, all right. So I think that we've kind of worn out our astronomers a little bit, although I can keep going. But you know, I want to thank everybody for participating with us. You know, all the people that watched from around the world, you know, all of you that were able to share images with us, whether they were live or from images that you had taken before. I want to thank Terry Mann and the Astronomical League for participating in the way that they have and their continued support. You know, we have more ideas planned for other global star parties. Our next one will be next Tuesday. And this will not be the last of the European edition of these star parties. So I'm really looking forward to doing more with that. Perhaps there's a way that we can get children involved in one of our events and actually let them control one of the telescopes and make, you know, maybe a class can make an image by remote control. So that would be very, very cool. So if you're watching and you've got kids at home, maybe that's something you want to approach us and see if we can actually pull that off. You can send your ideas to my personal email address, which is just the letter s@explorescientific.com. I want to thank Gary Palmer, Grant, everybody here. I want to thank all of you. We want to recognize the Astronomical Society of Kosovo for all their great work. And Suhail, thank you very much for all that you're doing. Thanks for joining us. And we are going to close, and we'll be back with more. So let's go ahead and end our program. I don't have a song I can sing, but maybe next time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Look how young Scott looks in that picture.
Oh my God, that's Scott. Holy crowd.
Yes.
Oh no, it's the pirate ship Explorer Scientific coming to get us.
And that's it, folks. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.